So Elsa and I want to welcome you to this hour of, or just under an hour of considering sustainable fashion from a psychological point of view. We want you to feel free to have your cameras off. We want you to feel free to come and go. If you've got kids to take to school or get to work or whatever, then this space is just for you to dip into as you can. And we're just really beside ourselves that you're here, because we appreciate that 8 o'clock in the morning is not the easiest time. And so thank you for being here. And we're just really excited to share this with you. It's a topic that we've both been passionate about, but haven't really looked at how can psychology help sustainable fashion. So we know the basics of why it's not good to wear new clothes and to buy and dispose really quickly, but we hadn't thought about from the psychological point of view, how can we give ourselves tools to actually do this with a sense of peace and positivity. So just preparing for you has been really helpful for us to look into this a bit more as well. Just to let you know that both of us just graduated from our Masters in Applied Positive Psychology and Coaching Psychology at the beginning of this year. So we both work within coaching psychology. Yeah. And maybe Elsa will tell you a bit more about herself. But before we start, next slide, please. We're just going to have a moment of calm. So I would encourage you, if you don't already have your camera off, I'm going to switch my camera off just for this time. And this is just a minute where, Elena, if you're walking, just allow your walking pace to slow down. Cleo, you're getting ready, so just allow yourself to get ready, but at a slower pace, or even just to sit for a moment. Elisa, I know that you've got Sabella and Chia. We've got so many demands on our time, but this moment is just a moment to recognize where we are. So often we jump onto Zoom and jump off Zoom, and we don't really ground ourselves in the actual moment. So this is a moment for each of us in this space to recognize that we're here, to allow whatever happened before us to sit comfortably behind us, and to look with positivity into the future. You might want to plant your feet firmly on the ground. Recognize your points of contact. If you're walking, that will just be your feet. If you're sitting, that might be your thighs, your buttocks, your back. And be aware of gravity, how nature gives us this wonderful gift of very easily being grounded, not having to do anything other than be. And as you go from your feet, up your body, up your legs, your trunk, to your head, and being aware of the space within your head. And so often thoughts crowd in, people make demands of our time. This is a moment where you are giving yourself space within your head. And when you're ready, I'd encourage you to very, very slowly bring movement into your body again. Perhaps your toes or your fingers, or just gently opening your eyes. Don't rush, take your time. We're not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. It was lovely to hear as well your birds behind from the garden. So I'm not sure, I can't see the chat because I'm sharing the screen. I can't find the chat. I don't know if you are posting stuff on the chat, or I can't hear you, Karen.
Hope, positivity, social justice, change for the better, uncertainty, circularity, supporting Mother Nature, hope.
Okay.
Confusion, pride, love, hope, joy, positive, lessening waste produce, human rights, ethical, futures, new ways, confusion, refreshing, clean, aligned, future, kindness.
Okay. So actually, I'm very surprised and very pleased because most of them have a very positive connotation. And I'm not going to lie, when Karen proposed to do this presentation, I hesitated, and I've been having a bit of personal, I guess, dilemmas with all these sustainable words, because for me, it's I've been going, I guess, through a lot of grief or anxiety, and yeah, I was a bit scared to do the presentation, and that's why I wanted to open the conversation with the emotions, just to acknowledge what we are going through. And me personally, there's a lot of research now from eco-psychology, where we're considering emotions, and there's a lot of research into eco-depression, eco-anxiety, eco-grief. So there's a lot of talk about the negative emotions. And now that I'm reading or listening to what all of you experience when you listen to the word sustainable fashion, that gives me as well hope and some joy. And I think what I wanted to do now, I don't know if most of you can do audio, at least it was to send you into breakout rooms and just to explore these emotions a little bit more into pairs or groups of 3. And just to consider the question, what's the power in your emotions, in your eco-emotion, when you, perhaps the ones you shared on the chat, or perhaps some others that have popped up in you, just explore the power of, if there's any power in these emotions, okay, regarding sustainability, sustainable fashion in particular, or just your life in general. So I will stop sharing for a second. I will copy the question into the chat, so you have the question. And okay, I'm gonna give you about 6 minutes to discuss this question in your breakout rooms. Do you have any questions or anything that you want to comment before I send you into the breakout rooms? Okay, so I send you. See you back in 6 minutes. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Cleo.
I think
at the beginning, I was wondering. Oh, sorry, Karen, you go.
No, you carry on, Sarah. It's fine. I'll let you start. I think Karen's shared hers in the group, really.
You can say them as well, Karen. But yeah, go for it, Sarah.
When you asked the question, what is the power behind all of this? We were questioning, what do you mean with power? That is it, like, how do you interpret power in that context? And I said, for me, it would be motivation, the energy that I put into it, like the effort, the positive mindset. This is very powerful because our thinking is very powerful. And if there's a collective of little people coming together, then it's a big group, and a big group can achieve more than maybe one small single person. So there is definitely power behind networking, like these presentations and meetups that you organize.
Thanks, Sarah. And I've seen on the chat, hate the word sustainable. So would you like to share a little bit more, John or Karen? It sounds really interesting, that conversation, because I think I'm also in that towards
yeah. I brought that up in our breakup room because I think sustainable is such a wishy-washy word. No one has a clear definition of what it means, or by sustaining, what are we sustaining? The current system? That's not what we want to do. We want to totally change it. So I think, we discussed how the way it's branded about everywhere, that brands can just be, oh, this is our sustainable collection. Why just one collection? Why just, one thing that's sustainable? So it's something that I find really frustrating. I know it's a kind of catch-all word when I say, oh, I'm interested in sustainable fashion. It just is sometimes just the easiest way to discuss it, when actually, yeah, I just really don't I really don't like it as a term, because I don't think it works, and I don't think the public understand what it means.
Just to agree with that, I mean, it's been hijacked by so many people, and even the idea of a carbon footprint was invented by BP. So it's it's a fog to cover their genocide. So it's really, sustainability for me is just a hijacked word. And I'd rather talk about social justice and environmentalism.
Could I please get an oat, flat white, and a loaf of bread? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. I like that about using the word social justice, and I wonder if do you resonate with any other words? Do you have any other words in mind that, apart from social justice, or words that are, yeah?
I think language is so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we in the global north, dictate the language as well. And a friend who lives in one of the countries which makes a lot of the fashion for us, doesn't like the word global south. She'd rather use traditionally pillaged countries, or countries of extraction, that sort of language. So I think it's really interesting just to work through that process of language.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, after this little moment of reflecting into our own emotions, the collective emotions, the wording of the terms we use to refer to what we call sustainability or social justice, or the way we see the world, really, I want to hand it over to Karen, and she's going to give us a little bit more of any insight into what a sustainable wardrobe is.
I'm so embarrassed now to show this slide, because I'm learning constantly, and particularly this morning. Yeah, I will definitely think about the language. So I just used the language that is commonly used, create a sustainable wardrobe, and I feel quite embarrassed that I've done that. So yeah, thank you for teaching, and thank you for being in this space and alerting me to that, because I think the points that have been made are obviously important, and I'll be thinking of that in the future. Thanks, Cleo. Yeah, so today isn't about teaching us how to have a sustainable wardrobe. It's more about how we feel about the whole concept of sustainable fashion, and how we take that forward. So this is very quickly, not talking about the individual items, but considering how a sustainable wardrobe can be a reflection of our relation with nature, So instead of thinking of the ecosystem as something that Boris Johnson talks about, and we're going to reduce our carbon emissions by 2035, and that to me seems very outside of me. It seems that something over there, it's in space, or yeah. So when we actually think about our wardrobe as being our relation with nature, then it starts to change perhaps how we feel about our wardrobe. And then our relation to others. So when we think of all of others, wherever we are in the world, whether that's someone that lives next door to us and someone that lives, any other part of the world, the wardrobe is our relationship with them. And later on, we'll be doing a mindful exercise where we actually consider how using our clothes, the people who made the clothes for us. So our wardrobe is actually a means of us thinking about the people who harvested the materials to create the clothes, or who produced the clothes. And finally, our wardrobe, our sustainable wardrobe, is relation to ourselves. So how we think about our own identity, how we hold ourselves within our clothes, how we meet others in our clothes says something about ourselves. So yeah, could we have the other slide, please, Elsa? And to think about our sustainable wardrobe, I kind of thought, let's think about how do we get our clothes from the beginning. So we talk about going shopping. As John's just said, the language we use has a massive effect on how we see things. So when we talk about shopping, that obviously means going to a shop, but acquiring clothes acquisition can be swapping. It can be altering or repairing. Just as you see in this first square, the seasonal discovery of putting our clothes away that we're not wearing just now, and then discovering them again. Oh, great! It's short sleeve weather time, and that's almost like us going to the shop and getting that buzz of, oh, I've got something new. And the concept of rental is still quite out there, but we could start to be renting our clothes. And how cool would that be to have something new to wear, but not killing the planet by doing that? So yeah, the transparency aspect is just asking questions of our clothes, of the retailers. We've been holding daily digital activist meetings every day this week, and we'll continue to do today and through the weekend at 12 midday UK time. And it's been amazing how actually sending an email that takes 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, we talk you through it, and actually our politicians are sending emails back. My politician got back to me and said, okay, I've written a letter to the Environment Minister. And in our breakout group, Claire was saying, some of us have been talking about this for so long, and other people are, it's just lip service. And our politicians, it might be lip service, but if enough of us ask those questions, we've been having meetings with MSPs in the Scottish Parliament. And one of the MSPs said, I only got involved in this because 5,000 of my constituents were asking questions. So just like you said, Sarah, if one of us does something, maybe it doesn't work. But if all of us get together, the collective, there is power there. And we also thought about clothes care, how that reflects ourselves. If we drop our clothes on the floor, then what does that say about us? So our own self-worth. And finally, fashion gets to bully us if we don't actually feel that, take control, have that autonomy. So yeah, there was a film in the 70s, which no one will remember but myself, but it was like, love means never saying you're sorry. And to me, autonomy within fashion means never apologizing for how you look, actually just enjoying your wardrobe. So you'll get this in your PDF at the end of this event. So yeah, I'll hand back over to Elsa. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will hand it over to you as well, to all of us, because I don't know if you have any comments or any questions or anything that you want to add to what Karen was saying, because I found that super interesting and enriching. I loved the idea of seasonal discovery. I had never used those words, but I really resonated with that. Like when you come back and you're like, oh yeah, I don't remember about these t-shirts. Or yeah, so I don't know if any of you have any comments or any questions that you want to raise.
I wanted to say something.
Go, Sarah.
I like the clothes rental idea. I think there's a certain amount of people who do that for, like, let's say Spring Festival or Carnival or Halloween, you know, instead of buying all these costumes, they just rent it and then they give it back. What I've experienced as well, like I had the same idea. Instead of buying a new outfit every year, I usually just wear the same costume every year, or I change a little bit. But what bugs me is that the rental is almost as much as buying the costume. And then I'm thinking to myself, why don't you make the rental cheaper? Otherwise I'm just going to buy it and I'm just going to keep it. And then I have clothes in my wardrobe that I'm not maybe wearing anymore, but I feel they're too pretty to throw away. So I feel sad. I don't want to throw them away not knowing where they're going. I would rather sell them to people knowing, okay, they will actually wear them, but there's no guarantee that this is actually going to happen. And if you do the rentals, who guarantees you that they actually return? So I think there's a bit of anxiety maybe there, or fear.
Thanks, Sarah. I think that's a really good point. There have been, and that has been discussed within meetings during the week, about the cost of the sustainable wardrobe, and how it can be so much cheaper when there's clothes provided on the high street at such cheap prices, to actually say to someone, well, it's better if you rent this if the cost is so much more. Even when you say about festivals or Halloween, if Asda's doing Halloween outfits for £4 for your kid, and you know you're going to rent for more than that, then there is that that consideration, definitely.
And when we were preparing this presentation, Karen and I, we realized that we need to change, and there's a lot of change that we need to experience at the moment. So that comes or links to our next part of the presentation. But yeah, I think I was listening to a video the other day, and I was speaking about how life, nature, we are always in flow. We try to find certainty and like to stick ourselves to a place, and that actually, if we learn from nature, if we see nature's cycles is in constant movement and in constant flow, and we change all the time. So that's why we wanted to ask you this, just again, a bit of self-reflection, but what does change mean to you? You take a couple of seconds to reflect on this. If you want to share on the chat, if you want to say it out loud, feel free. You don't have to, but just reflect. What does change mean to you?
Change means learning and expanding my awareness. Change inevitable and unknown. Systems change, real meaningful change for growers, makers, distributors, buyers, disposal, life cycle of clothes, good for richer and poorer countries. I can't change unless I know more. movement, cycles, learning, reflecting, exploration, accepting we won't have all the answers right away, learning from others, questioning your assumptions and having an open mind.
Thank you so much. Stop doing what I used to do and start doing my own way or better way. So much food for thought on all these. And I think this also shows how words, again, and the way we see things, it's very personal as well. And how when we come together, you know, like I had my own version of what change meant to me. And now when I'm reading your definitions of what change means to you, I'm like, yeah, exactly what Elena was saying. I question my assumptions, you know, like it's really, really enriching. And I think sometimes it's useful as well to see, and that's why we wanted to share this with you. There's a psychological model of change that takes us through different stages, and it explains, I guess, it gives a bit of perspective to change. This one is specifically for behavioral change, so changing our behaviors, and I think that's pretty relevant when we speak about changing the way we treat our clothes, the way we understand fashion in general. And as you can see in this model, there are 5 different stages of change. We have pre-contemplation, where, just a second, so it's a phase where we experience denial and we're not seriously considering changing any type of behavior. We've made perhaps some previous attempts to change our behaviors, but we've given up. The following stage is contemplation. And in this stage, we experience uncertainty about the change. We see some reasons to change our behavior, but we're still very hesitant. Then we have the preparation stage, where we've decided to change the behavior and we've begun to think about how to do it. And perhaps at this stage, we've made some minor changes to support the bigger behavioral change that we want to do. Then we have the action stage. In this one is where we've taken significant steps towards the behavior change we want to do. At this stage, we usually avoid triggers, we reach out for help, or we take other steps to avoid the temptation of going back to the old behavior or unsustainable practices in this case. The next stage is maintenance. The changes we've made during the action stage are maintained. Maybe, or we probably still continue to face some challenges, but we've managed to keep the behavioral change for a significant period of time. And they usually say is more than 6 months when we've managed to keep the behavior for over 6 months. And then there's the relapse. This one happens at any stage. So changing behavior is something really hard. And I don't know if you've tried to change some behaviors, but it's very easy to fall into the pre-contemplation, contemplation, action, and moving all around. So perhaps after making some changes, we go back to the previous behavior that we wanted to change. And I think this is all to say that we are aware about the change, and perhaps by being in this conversation, we are aware that we want to change our fashion or just to bring awareness into our fashion practices, and just be kind to yourself. I would say, if I have something to say today, is that we need to support each other. And it's really easy to, as I was saying at the beginning of the conversation, to get trapped into these ecological emotions, especially towards the negative. And I think, just if we bring awareness into the process of change and how hard it is to change all these behaviors, I think supporting each other and being kind to ourselves can be really helpful and needed in this process. So before I send you into breakout rooms, I don't know if you have, again, any questions, any comments that you want to share with but then I will send you to the breakout room for, what time is it? Yeah, for a few minutes, for 6 minutes. And I want you to consider these questions. Do you identify with any of these stages of change when it comes to thinking of your sustainable wardrobe? And if it can help, or if you want to share any insights again, or any juicy information that came out from your chats. Yeah, Sarah?
As I mentioned earlier, I think there's a certain fear. I don't know if it's anxiety, it's probably a bit too much, but I find it hard to let go of some clothes that I know I'm not wearing anymore, but just for the nostalgia, I keep them. Or, you know, I have that very beautiful dress that I wore for my bachelor's graduation in London. And I keep it, although it glitters and it makes a big mess, but I keep it because it's so beautiful. And I say, one day I will wear it, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I just find it so hard to let go because I don't know where it goes.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other reflections, any other things that you want to share?
I think it's good not to feel guilty and shame and anxiety if you possibly can, because we live in an imperfect system. It's a broken system, designed to make money for people who look like me, white middle-aged blokes. So I think the last people who should feel, you know, if you only got £5 to spend, go into Primark and buy a pair of jeans for £5. You know, it's not for me to judge on a salary what someone else can afford. So, but bearing that in mind, you know, we were talking about in the breakout about social media and how powerful that is. Yeah, working to your politician, they do add up how many people write to them, and you know, brands do care if you go onto their social media and say, well, you know, what about this poor woman in Bangladesh working in a terrible environment who made your clothes? They really care about that, and we haven't fully explored that here.
Yeah. Thanks, John. So I'll hand it over to Karen now, just to do the close-up, I guess.
Thanks, Elsa. Elsa, I was trying to attach the PDF to the chat, but I was finding that quite difficult, so I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'll send it, maybe I can send it over on the email. When you register on Zoom, we'll share with you, we created a PDF, sort of a reflection guide, and Karen made a meditation as a gift as well. So we'll send it over on the email. It'll be easier to download.
So we've just got a few minutes left, and as always, these events go by so fast. I hope that you found it helpful to consider the negative emotions as well as the positive emotions towards social justice within fashion. I'm having to change the way that I use my language. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting when we talked about language. That's something that I'm taking away from today. And then also the different stages of change. If we're considering how do we change, we'll all be at different stages of developing our relationship with clothes. And Elsa's reminder for us to be kind to each other is really pertinent. And I thought we could just finish with consideration of gratitude. In positive psychology, there's been a lot of research regarding keeping a gratitude list. every day, people were encouraged to write down their bullet points of what they're grateful for, and how that just actually was a great benefit to each person, and it built up positivity within them. So if that helps, when we actually have to sit down and think about it, I wondered, can we use our clothes as a daily gratitude list without even having to get the bit of paper and pen? We all take our clothes off every day, every evening. We could do this in the morning as well. I've kind of experimented a bit with this, and I find personally for myself, perhaps it is a personal thing, but in the morning I'm not in the right place mentally, and I'm usually quite kind of rushed. But in the evening, as we're removing each piece of clothing, could we use that as our own gratitude list? And I would encourage, we've got an audio file which I've put up. I tried to put it onto YouTube, but we couldn't put it onto the Fashion Rev channel. So it's just on my own website, but it's there listed for you to access. But you don't have to have that. You can do this yourself, and just as you take each piece of clothing off, to smell it, to touch it, to think about, how am I treating this? Am I dropping it on the floor? Am I hanging it up, folding it, putting it into the wash? But also then your relationship, as we said at the beginning, how our wardrobe can help us improve our relationship with the world, with the people of the world, and with ourselves. So thinking about what's this piece of clothing made of as we remove it? Is it made of something that required pesticides for it to be created? Who made my clothes? What kind of conditions were they working in? Were they paid a freer wage? And right down to ourselves, how did this piece of clothing serve me? And building that personal relationship with each piece of clothing, and being grateful. So not using this as something to beat ourselves up with at the end of the day, but to be grateful to the materials that made our clothes, to be grateful to the people who went in to the factory or into their own workshop, or whoever made these clothes for us, and to be grateful to ourselves for what we're doing. So yeah, I would just encourage you to use your clothes. I'm sorry we've gone a minute over our time, but what a lovely, lovely way to start the morning for me anyway. I've really enjoyed being with you, and I'm exceptionally grateful to you for your contribution within the chat. If you would like to keep the chat, you know that you can just press on the 3 dots and save the chat. We'll be uploading this recording onto the Fashion Revolution Scotland YouTube channel later on today, so you can access it again. Elsa will be sending you a PDF with all the slides, and there's also access to that mindful contemplation of clothes. Elsa, do you want to finish?
And just thank you to everybody, and for their conversation, and yeah, for their thought-provoking morning, I guess. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Have a lovely day.
You too.
It was so good to see you again, guys. Speak soon.
Yeah, take care.
Let's catch up sometime soon. All of
Yes,
us.
we should.
That would be
I
great
miss you
with a
so
drink.
much.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.